Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Money and Mindset at 40 Plus, where through our stories, Jenny and I help you conquer your money fears, your money stories, and help you just live that abundant life that you want and that you deserve. I'm Sylvia,
I'm Jenny.
and we have a special guest, and I don't know. Do you see the resemblance between the two of them? Anybody? Well, yes, we have Sarah Mitchell in the house
Woohoo!
today. Welcome. And if you got the relation there, there's Sarah Mitchell and there's Jenny Mitchell.
A,
Sisters. Isn't that
a,
exciting?
it is a tale of two sisters,
A tale
Sylvia.
of two sisters. Yeah, we're gonna go. I want to know all about your different money stories. That is where we are going today, because apparently Sarah has different stories than you, Jenny.
Yeah, she does. So I am absolutely delighted to have my sister on. She is awesome. She is thoughtful. She is kind. She is smart, and she has taught me so much about how she manages her money and how she thinks about money. And it really is, Sylvia, a tale of two stories around money. I was raised as a classical musician and sort of money as an afterthought. I talk on this show a lot about how I struggle to have a relationship at all with money. And my sister chose to take on that task. I'll find out soon enough on this show when that happens, Sarah. I'm keen for that aha moment, and really decided to lean into her relationship with money. And I also love that this comes 1 week after last week we talked about this money story, I'm no good with money. And so here we are bringing a story about owning your own money story. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. And I do think it's interesting that we have different stories about money, given that we grew up in the same household, especially. So, I'm excited to get into these questions and share with you guys kind of some things that I've discovered, especially in the last 5 years in particular.
Okay.
Well, a little bit about you, Sarah, though. I mean, you are a businesswoman as well. So that you do share with Jenny. Both of you run businesses. And you, first career was a chiropractor, hence the Dr. Sarah Mitchell. And now your business is not in chiropractic.
Tell us more.
Yeah, no, well, I think it's kind of interesting that both my sister and I did, doctorate programs that used our hands. So I was a chiropractor and Jenny was a pianist. So kind of interesting. And neither of us are in those fields now. I found my passion empowering parents to teach their little ones to sleep and parent confidently day and night. So I'm a sleep consultant. I run my own business. And it's something that I'm very grateful for, that I have the ability to impact lives and make money on my own terms, essentially. So, so that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And that's such a big one. Sleep.
Yes.
Especially, I mean, everyone knows, I run the doula agency. Well, Sarah, we call upon services like that afterwards when we're having issues sleeping. But I love how you pivoted to the moms, to the parents, because we always talk about baby sleeping.
Yeah,
not enough about the moms.
Well, and the experience that I was having was that I would get these kiddos sleeping and parents feeling so much better, but then they still couldn't sleep themselves.
Right.
And it's very true that the postpartum period really does trigger like small bouts of insomnia for parents. And so I have a 6-week coaching class, helping moms sleep, helping you sleep like you did before you had kids. And it's focusing on helping you wake up feeling rested and energized to face your day. And yes, that includes sleep science. It's balancing the behavior and the biology behind sleep, but also mindset as well. So important. So having a really good time
without giving the children away.
That's right.
That's
without
right. It? Because I mean, you're far away from your parents. I know you live. You're not in Ottawa,
we have
where
no
Jenny
help.
and your parents are, so you don't have help out west.
And I'd just like to send a shout out to Ariana Huffington too for sort of putting this. Well, maybe it's the first time I heard about it. I'm sure others were talking about the importance of sleep before, but it's changing those cultural things, Sarah. I mean, I think it's saying that sleep is important and that you're not lazy or you're not just tired all the time. What's your thoughts on that about cultural?
Well, one of my best performing Instagram posts is just quotes sleep shamed, and everybody clicks on that because they can associate with that in some way, shape, or form. And I personally remember the first time it happened to me when I was in chiropractic college, somebody saying, oh my God, you need so much sleep, like it's this major weakness. Right. But I've always maintained that because I focus on sleep, I always have. It's one of the reasons I have such a sunny disposition. So,
Well, I think so. And last week, Jenny and I started getting into this question about if I really loved myself, what decisions would I make in my life? And for me, that's around sleep is one of them. I'm starting to ask my question, well, if I love myself, would I really go to bed at midnight? Why am I going to bed at midnight when I'm so cranky the next day? And I can't run my business really well. And I'm not very good with my hubby. And then I'm like short-tempered with my children. And then that sunny disposition goes away. So the extremely important question. So thank you for all that you do, which is it is related to because you're a businesswoman. You need to be on, as well as being a mom and a spouse. And
so I'm going to take the massive pivot here. I'm doing it. I'm taking us from sleep. I'm going to actually do the pivot this way. How about this? Responsible for your own sleep and your own behavior and your own disposition, to responsible for your own money and your own choices and your own purchases. So Sarah, this should be fun. Growing up, what was your very first memory where money came into play?
I remember having a homemade calendar where I would check off each week when I got my allowance.
Oh my God.
What, you didn't do that, Jenny? You didn't have your homemade calendar?
I did. I totally did. I loved money I've loved accumulating money since.
So wait.
How old were you? How old were you?
I think I was probably in middle school.
Okay.
And what was the feeling when you put that checkbox? What did you feel? Do you remember?
Kind of like I hit a goal. Like, woohoo! Yes, money.
I love it.
But I had the calendar too. I was babysitting. So I might have been 13. So it's really similar age, Sarah. And I would write every day that I would babysit. And there were some days, 5 or 6 days a week I was babysitting. And at the end of the day, $200 or $150. And I was like, I was rolling in money when I was 13 years old, right?
Yeah. Not me.
Not on your radar.
Me. Sarah, you referred to this idea that you have worked really hard on your personal relationship with money. Can you talk a little bit about that journey?
Yes. So the other time I remember really noticing money was when I worked for a medical company. And the first time I learned about the employee stock purchase plan, the idea that you get a 15% discount. So boom, you're making 15% right off the bat. I was like, what? Of course I'm going to max this out. And it was also the realization that people don't get rich with their day job. They get rich through other investments, the stock market and other things, but it's not their salary that is the thing that catapults them ahead.
Right? I mean, it plateaus. So it's what are you doing with that money elsewhere that will catapult you? And it's owning businesses.
I just want to
property.
I want to down it down. So Sarah, $100 stock, an employee stock buying program is where you get to buy the stock for $85 as an employee versus the actual ticket price of $100, correct?
Exactly. And that played into the knowledge that I'd already had by reading the book, The Wealthy Barber. So I think I read that in university. Canadian too, is it not? I think it is. And the whole idea of pay yourself first. So
no, we're losing her, Jenny.
Yeah. Okay.
There she is.
So
repeat.
The
wealthy barber.
The wealthy barber. Pay yourself first. So for a very long time, I had no money, right? I was in university basically for 8 years and I worked part-time. And I remember why I worked. I worked so I could go out and
oh, shit.
That was the main reason, right? That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted some extra spending catch that was guilt-free. I mean, there's a whole money story in that section that we won't dive into. But that was one of the things. So then when I started working, I knew I really wanted to save and get ahead right away. So I saved, I did not spend a lot of money when I was first out of school. And as a mother, that's the first thing that I'm going to teach my kids. It's like, try and get ahead at the very beginning. Save as much as you can those first few years out of school when you're in your first job. That's how you can make the biggest impact.
This is
Which is what you did. You're saying what you did when you came out
I
of
did that.
chiropractic school. You got a
Yeah.
job as a chiropractor,
Yeah.
and you put it
So-
all
Yeah.
away.
so
And then when
Jen-
I got into medical devices, when I would get my paycheck, I would immediately put a certain amount into my savings account right away. Did you guys do that?
no, Sarah, no.
I did in certain parts. Yes, I did do that in certain parts of my life. Yes, in certain careers that I've had. I've had many types of careers.
So I have a question. Did you feel you were missing out on anything? Those of us on the call, and this is going to be a live or a show, people might be thinking, well, but what about those other things, Sarah? How did you reconcile that?
I didn't really know any differently. I don't know. It seemed like what I wanted to do at the time. Because it kind of fit with my checking off my calendar for my allowance mentality that I'd already had, right? Paying yourself first. So that was working for the medical company, getting that going. And then as far as the other part of the money story is moving to the United States. So I worked in medical devices for 10 years, where every month you're ranked on how much money you make. Okay.
Like fundraisers.
Yes.
It's true. There, you guys are parallel roads there.
Yeah. I think that was really hard on myself, on my self-worth, looking back in hindsight. And so when I moved to the United States, it was really weird for me because I couldn't work. I didn't have a visa. So figuring out who you are, if one, you're not associated with a certain role or career, and then two, like you're not contributing to the household finances in any way, is a real something different to wrap your brain about. You have to figure out,
especially as the big career woman before, right? I mean, you were single and putting this money away, and you were independent, and you had your place, and you had your life, and then all of a sudden to be the spouse at home who's not working.
Yeah. So how do you attach yourself? How are you enough just by being enough? Well, just by existing.
Oh, wow.
That was hard. It was really hard. Those first 3 years here where my kids were like 1.5 and 3.5, no family help, not feeling like I could afford to pay for a babysitter for a few hours. Oh my gosh. Or that I didn't deserve it, or I should be able to do this on my own. Yeah. Right? Super difficult.
Those are such typical stories for women, Sarah. And I want to thank you for mentioning that. And anybody who's on the call that's listening, those are tough years. And it ties down to money, because it's who am I to get a babysitter just so I can go and sit in Barnes and Nobles and flip magazines? Like, this isn't anything, maybe get my hair done, right? Yeah. So how did you get out of that? What was next?
Well, I feel really fortunate because I'd already kind of started the sleep consulting at that time. So I had another purpose, which was just blogging about the sleep. So that helped. And then I found my little tribe exercising with other stay-at-home parents, which was fabulous. Absolutely great, because that sense of productivity. So I definitely noticed that my self-esteem was tied to productivity for many years. I'm over that now.
Well, much of our worth as people and as women especially is tied to productivity. So we go, but then no wonder there's so much burnout, right?
Exactly.
It's a problem.
Yeah. So how did I get out of that? I don't know. When you go to making absolutely zero money and then starting to do your own thing, like any money starts to seem like a lot at that point, right? And during that time, what I did then was I took investing classes online. So that's another great homework piece. Usually a lot of these larger institutions have some sort, and if you have a certain balance amount, they'll give it to you for free as well. So ask if your company has something like that. So I did that. I did those two things kind of to keep my brain busy. And those were in those years were some of my first big buys with Facebook and Amazon, and being here in Silicon Valley, feeling like you had a bit greater knowledge of what was happening as well was helpful.
Thanks for keeping it real, Sarah.
It's all good.
Take it in your room. Take it into your room. Okay.
So hold on a minute. I want to talk about the stock market, because that's the first time we've used the S word on this show.
We've never talked about it. We are not financial advisors. Anybody? We are not telling you where to invest, what to invest, and how.
But I do want to bring in the archetypes. So Sarah, I know you're a maverick, right? That's your
Oh,
profile. Hi, Violet. I know that you're a maverick, which means you like to take chances. You like to take ideas. You like to be bold. So did that play into participating in the stock market? Was that part of the story?
A little bit, but do you remember what my second archetype is? The accumulator.
which they
So
go against each other. They're the
yeah.
same as my hubby, JP. Same thing.
Oh,
Accumulator and
okay.
maverick as well, who
Yeah.
loves to, not play the stock market, but invest in the stock market as well, but loves also to save and somewhat play safe as well.
Yeah. And so I think how I really got into it was because when we left Canada, you have to sell all your stocks for tax purposes. So then you have this chunk of money that you have to figure out what to do with, right? So that's how it kind of started. And I had a little bit more time and trying to think about like passive income, right? Like in this day and age, we are entering an era where people have multiple streams of income, a lot more than our parents' generation ever did. So I kind of now view the stock market along with my sleep consulting business as a stream of revenue for me from now and for my future.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how did I get into it? Well, taking the classes, doing the readings, subscribing to that newsletter that we kind of talked about earlier. So there's a newsletter that comes twice a week that we pay for that has, the philosophy aligns with our philosophy. So that's the first thing you want to think about anytime you're listening to people talking about the stock market. Does their philosophy align with mine? So I'm a long-term dividend value investor. So we look for beat up stocks that have a long history of doing well, but for some reason they've been hit for whatever reason, and they pay a dividend. And a dividend basically is about 4 times a year. They give you a little piece of money to say thank you for having your money invested with us, right? And the difference, the other major investing strategy is growth stocks. So that's all your Amazon, your Facebook, big tech companies in general are growing quickly, but they're not necessarily paying a dividend. So they're not paying you anything, but in general, their stocks are growing a bit more quickly, perhaps, than a dividend.
So you said, we lost you there a second, but they don't pay very well, but they grow quickly.
They don't pay. Usually they don't pay at all. I think Apple just started.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Apple just launched a dividend, a small one, I think this year, but they haven't up until now.
And I remember, of course, we share the same dad, right? So he's in my head, but this idea that dividends being reinvested as well, helping you exponentially grow that asset. And was getting into the stock market more of an intentional thing when you started a small business? Like you mentioned to me that you thought of it as like part of your job. How much time do you spend at the stock market, Sarah? A week?
It varies depending on what's happening in the market. So right now I'm spending more time because there's so much volatility. I'm kind of watching to see what's going to happen. And because we've had the election and whatnot here in the States, but on average, I would say I listen to 2 different podcasts that I kind of like a week. And then I definitely check the balance once a week. And then I usually like rebalance, like, is there anything that needs to be sold off? Because it's reached its peak maybe 4 times a year.
Good for you. Good for you.
Hats off. I think that it's very intimidating for many people listening. It's very intimidating.
It is. And you start small. You can't know it all. I do not know it all. There's still there's a lot of the fundamental charts that I don't really know how to read. But I figured out like a few different indexes that I understand, right? And the newsletter has really helped it all. So I pay for professional advice that kind of like dumbs it all down for me and has their recommendations, and then I can follow that advice.
Is that from your investment company, the newsletter you talk about?
It's called IQ Trends. It's out of the United States.
IQ Trends. Okay.
IQ Trends. Yep. And I believe the Dividend Stocks Rock, they're Canadian. I believe they also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to at this point.
And full disclosure, we are not financial advisors. We are women on a mission to help other women learn and celebrate money in their lives. Just wanted to get that out there. But I love the idea, Sarah, that, we always are worried about financial planners sort of taking a piece of your action or taking a portion of your fees. And these are examples of people who pool their resources in like a membership site, like you said, to get information that you can trust. Is that fair? to say?
Yeah, I'd say that's absolutely fair. I think there's a place for financial planners. It's just not necessarily for everybody. And I think it's just like everything in life. Doctors, lawyers, there's really good ones, and then there's not so good ones. Right. And how do you find that person? And what I found frustrating, even with my own brokerage account, is that sometimes it's actually really hard to get the metrics that you need. Like, what's my average rate of return this year? I have to do that manually. It's kind of strange like that, right? And same thing when you get, like, if you have a financial planner, they send you all your mutual funds. It's like pages and pages and pages, and you like, does not tell you how much you're paying them, how much they made off of you, because they still get paid even if your portfolio goes down, right? I just find it really hard to get information out of them in general.
Yeah.
So, and the language is set up. There's a lot of similarities to, like, the medical profession. I remember learning this in chiropractic college, how, like, the medical profession has its own language that kind of serves as a little bit of a barrier, right? It keeps it special and kind of hidden, and you need them because you can't read the textbook on your own. Similar to financials, kind of the same thing. What you're looking for in a financial planner is someone that's willing to take the time and teach you about what they're doing, and be full disclosure about what they're taking from you when they're doing that. One of the best books I ever read was Tony Robbins. Whether or not you like Tony Robbins, but Tony Robbins, Unshakable. And I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything my father has been preaching at me for the last 20 years that I wasn't really sure I believed or not. It was literally everything.
But because Tony says it, it must be true. Sometimes dads have they're right.
Well, it's often the people closest to you that have the least faith in you, and you have the least faith in a lot of ways, right? Well, right. He never took my chiropractic advice ever. So
there you go. Now he wonders why.
You know what's interesting is I don't think my dad would mind telling this story. I had the question, what's the worst thing that's happened to you in the stock market? But I know my dad's story of that was he lost a chunk of money in the stock market. And that was the day he woke up, speaking of being responsible, and decided he was going to figure the heck this out.
Well, he lost it with a financial planner. I think that's the important note, not on his own, right? And so he was like, I'm going to figure this out for sure.
Yeah. Right. So you know what you're talking about, right? That's the whole point. Get informed, be informed, be knowledgeable. Yeah.
But you don't have to start from scratch. And that's where those newsletters or those books come in to help you. And it's all about little bits every now and again, growing your knowledge base. You're never going to be able to sit down, read everything and understand it all. Because I took the online classes, and afterwards I was like, oh my gosh, there's still so much I don't really get. But I'm going to start with these 4 little pieces and work from there. And then you have success with something. And then you grow more confidence. You're willing to take a little bit larger of a risk. And then that keeps growing the amount that you're willing to kind of invest or take a calculated risk. For me, the risks now are the companies that aren't dividend companies. So I just bought, I took a gamble, and I call it this. I took a gamble on an IPO for a tech company. And it looks like it's going to turn out all right. But I know, I took another gamble on an IPO on Beyond Beef, actually, because I used the product. So I was like, I should buy this. And I bought it, and it was too volatile for me. And it didn't have any history to lie back on. And I panicked and I sold it. And I lost $500, I think, at the end. But I'm kicking myself because, like, if I'd stuck it out a bit longer, it went up to like $200, right? So that's the thing. That's why that type of investing can't work for me, because I just can't do it.
That's your
even right now, like the emotion, you can't be tied to it. So for example, on my newsletter, it came out that I should probably sell this railroad stock that I've had. And I was like, oh, but it's done so well for me. But like, it's one of the first buys that I ever made. I don't know if I can let it go.
The emotion behind it. Look at that.
The emotion behind it.
Should not have emotion behind it. Yeah.
You should not have emotion behind it.
Anyway, any decisions around money with emotion.
Exactly. Yeah. So I sold it, but I did go, And then you have to think about, I sold it, but now where am I going to put that money that I can make a better gain. And that's why I sold it, because it's inclined, it pays a dividend, but it's inclined to kind of peak. So now I'll look for something that's kind of beat up again, a company that's, not done well through this pandemic, but has a history of good earnings and keeping a solid dividend. And I'll pick one of those to help me, because my long-term goal right now in 10 years is that my portfolio doubles. And to do that, I need like a 7% return. And I figured that out by talking to one of these financial people, because they'll talk to you because they want to try and sell their services. So they'll talk to you. If you know the right questions to answer, you can get more information. And so that's what we figured out together. So, so that's what I'm working on.
This is super interesting. Oh, sorry, Jenny, I had a question before you jump in.
No, well, I just wanted to
what are you doing?
Go ahead. No, I have too many questions.
It's too many questions. I want to know, does your hubby share the same passion about this, or like in your household?
So he is interested, yes, but we share slightly different views. He still hasn't believed in my dad completely, the same way that I didn't until now. I see like that his knowledge and his philosophy is very sound. But we chit chat about stocks, in the morning, about what's happening in the market. Did you pick up that? I picked this up. We don't have a shared portfolio. We have separate. And he knows about different industries than I know about too, which is kind of interesting, right? So he's actually the one who gave me the IPO that I picked. He was like, hey, you should check this out.
I love that story about, we talk a lot about money and relationships, and there's sort of this shared connection there that I think is really lovely. And I've always said there's nothing more romantic than hanging out in your stock portfolios with your partner. But for me, it's about planning your future, right? Like I couldn't care less what the numbers are, but that idea of sharing and working towards something, I'm an alchemist, right? I believe in the power of money and the things that money can accomplish together. What is one thing that, if you're listening, somebody listening to this podcast or to this episode, one piece of advice to help them get comfortable into stocks and securities? You've done some great homework. One piece of advice, what would you say to them, Sarah?
Set a time once a week that you're willing to read about stocks or the market, or find one podcast that you listen to once a week on your morning walk or when you're doing the dishes or something. Yeah, that's what I would do, because you have to expose yourself to it on a regular basis and keep picking things up. And just even listening to the news, the financial news, can be helpful, but like finding someone who can give you a commentary on it, like why that stock's up or why it's down, is the more important thing. So I listen to the Motley Fool podcast. I like them. And there's Wall Street Breakfast, which is a little bit more like analytical, but it's still short, and that's what I like about that. And the Motley Fool one comes out once a week, and the Wall Street Breakfast, it comes out daily.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit like the sports channel. Like, I'm not so interested in the sports game, but I love the sports stories. I love the sports journey. I do enjoy the commentary. So that's actually a great takeaway for me, is finding someone who gives me some flavor.
Yeah.
And I would think I start now. Why not start now? It's not too late to start. We've mentioned that before on other episodes, right? It's never too late to start.
And then at the end of the month, what you can start doing is looking back at the transactions that occurred in your account, just if you have access to that, and looking up how much money you made in dividends. That's a great motivator to keep checking. Because if you forget about your money forgets about you. So especially as a small business owner, I feel like I've started definitely checking that more often, because I do that with my business, right? At the end of every month, take a look at the financials, and then you do that for your dividend, and having somewhere to keep track of that, even outside of your account, in an Excel sheet.
Sarah, do you have a Joy Fund?
No.
The Sarah Fund? The Sarah Joy Fund?
No. Like, is that for like special things that I want to work on? I want to work towards, or
that you want to buy?
Yeah. So I am always thinking about, one of the best ways that I can save is knowing it's going towards something. So I've been calling that the Joy Fund. Maybe it's like in your living room, your new console that you bought, or your new sofa or something like that. Would that be something that would be, what motivate? You talked about, I guess you're an accumulator. So seeing the money in your bank account works for you, Sarah.
I like that. Yeah. But, speaking of money story, with furniture and whatnot, especially because we rent, because we're here in Silicon Valley and we don't really know what's happening. And I mean, long term. And so I've had IKEA furniture forever. And then I turned 45 and I was like, I can't live another day with IKEA furniture, even if even if I don't know where I'm going, I deserve to have nice furniture. I'm 45, for crying out loud. So I went and I bought this new sofa and this big, huge
Love
wall
it.
unit. And like, hopefully we don't move anytime soon because it's going to be really awkward. But every day it brings me joy. Even this morning I sat on my sofa and I said, oh my God, I love this sofa.
Right.
It's very important to celebrate the things that you spent money on that bring you joy, because I feel like I was brought up to notice the things where I made a mistake with money. I bought those shoes and they weren't comfortable. Shame, 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 shame. I wasted that money. But now I look at it a different way. I'm like, oh, crap. I made a mistake. Those shoes don't fit well. Oh, well, who can I give them to that would appreciate those shoes? And then that money isn't lost. It's all how you think about it, you know? I also remember.
Is it really lost? I mean, if we look at it, when you did buy them, it allowed that store to make money, to pay their employee, to put food on their table for their kids. Really? So it was never a loss. Yes, you weren't able to wear them comfortably, but it did allow a lot of people to benefit from that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I remember also buying the most adorable pair of Roots leggings for my daughter, who was like 2, and we were in the States. So buying things from Canada from Roots was really special to us. And yes, they were expensive. They were probably $28, which is way more than I would ever pay for a kid's leggings. And I remember someone in my circle picking it up and going, $28 for kids' leggings.
Oh.
And I was like, you know what? I know how much I'm going to enjoy looking at those leggings every time she wears them and thinking about Canada and all of our wonderful family in here. So you can think what you want. And I actually feel sorry for you that that's how you're viewing the lens of life right now, right? Where they're punishing themselves for spending money. It's like, it's a whole self-worth thing, right? I can't, oh my goodness. It's hard to watch sometimes, but but I understand it because I've been there.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love having you on, Sarah, is that idea of the arc of your story is just so freaking awesome. And it feeds really nice, Sylvia, into next week's.
Well, it does. It does feed right into that next week's episode, doesn't it?
Yeah, wonderful. Sarah, I think I'm going to close us out here by saying thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very inspiring. Very inspiring.
Oh, good.
If you want to reach out and talk to Sarah, I'm going to put this here. It's her LinkedIn. Google or LinkedIn. Do it in the search. Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She will help you sleep, help your family sleep, help your baby sleep. If you want to talk to her about other things, just reach out to her.
Sure. Even any investment questions, I can send you to some of the resources that I've found have helped me over time.
Yeah. I love this idea of us supporting each other through this stuff. And I love that we're creating a community that talks about it, Sarah. You know, I think it's maybe the final taboo. You know, we're more comfortable talking about the O word, our orgasms, than we are talking about our investments. So
perhaps it depends on the circles you're in, Jenny. I don't know. No, but it's wonderful, and I really like that, you know, the tale of two sisters, you know, same parents but different stories, and we're all really different, and we have to dig deep. And sometimes we blame our parents and the same sibling doesn't, right? Or whatever it is. It's really interesting. I think we could just do a whole show just about those stories that came up and how you grew up differently, but that's for another time.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Did
you want to tell what the show is next week, Jenny?
Did I? Of course I did.
We just said it led well into the show.
I did. Next week's show is another money story. I have trouble spending money ... on myself.
Yeah. We did kind of touch on that a little bit.
We did touch about it.
It's going to be interesting.
Spending the $28 leggings for
yes.
a 2-year-old. So
yeah.
We'll delve into that. We are live every Thursday at 12 p.m. and subscribe to our channel, share it, and we'll catch you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Sarah.
Bye.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.